We've never been more connected to one another in the history of the world, while at the same time, we never as a collective species felt more lonely. We're counting calories over here and making sure that I spend, 2 hours a week on my Peloton, but I'm not keeping track of anything as it relates to my relationships. If you can achieve that, you actually can do more for someone's health and well-being than if you put them on a diet or give them an exercise regimen or have them quit smoking cigarettes.
Take me through this, right? To me, what's interesting is there is a component here which is saying, how do you cut down on your phone usage and kind of this addiction, which is absolutely true. And there's a myriad of evidence to support that, but also about building stronger and closer relationships, with that key circle. I thought that was also a very interesting kind of part to this. So what's your overview for how would you describe Moment?
Yeah, I think there are kind of three pieces to Moment. And the third piece is actually kind of turned into a whole nother project that I'm working on that I can touch on because it does relate to how we interact and have relationships and sustain relationships with people. But with Moment, it's really about helping people develop awareness. People are not aware most of the time of how much they use their phone. Most people think they use it 2 hours a day. We ask them that at the front end of their experience, or we have asked them that historically, and then they measure it and they realize, oh, it's like 4 hours a day. So they're off, but that's how disconnected perception is from reality. And just that awareness wake up is helpful for people. Then we have a whole series of tips and tricks for people who want them, right? To get their device into a realm where people can behave more deliberately around their phone as opposed to sort of unconsciously, where they can't really predict, I'm going to spend an hour of my day hour today on my phone or 5 hours. I don't know. We'll see what happens. And then the last thing is we have found, and this is true in a lot of the research on behavioral addiction, which is really what this phone thing is, that groups of people and co-committing to change, behavior change, is really one of the most effective ways to catalyze behavior change and sustain it. So within Moment, we have an ability for you to form a group of people who can kind of co-develop habits and keep each other accountable, because the group feature within Moment allows you to see how much each person in the group is using their phone. So that's pretty useful.
And you've had over 8 million users, right? Something like that today.
Yeah, we have 8 million people who have at various points through the last several years have downloaded the product. So a lot of demand for it. And then I think in looking at this problem, we've learned that there's sort of an adjunct problem, which is just that, which I would summarize as, we've never been more connected to one another in the history of the world, while at the same time, we've probably never as a collective species felt more lonely.
Right.
Which to us presents an opportunity whereby, well, that sort of suggests that maybe these services that are supposed to help with our socialness aren't actually working as designed, or certainly aren't working in our best interest. So we've actually endeavored to build a product, and we've built about 5 different prototypes in this area. We're still experimenting. It's going to take a while, I think, to get it right, which is, okay, if I started from scratch and I just wanted to build something for Alex that would really help him create and sustain, because your friendships already exist. Like, think of the 5 to 10 people in your life to whom you care about the most. How do we help you dedicate your mind share and attention to those people in a sustained way that helps you feel close to them? Because it turns out that if you can achieve that, you actually can do more for someone's health and well-being than if you put them on a diet or give them an exercise regimen or have them quit smoking cigarettes. Like, your social well-being is actually the biggest predictor of longevity. It's the biggest predictor of pushing out the onset of disease. And it's the biggest predictor of how good you feel about the quality of your life at the end of it. So it seems silly that there isn't something that guides and helps people to do that. We sort of leave it all to chance. We're counting calories over here and making sure that I spend, 2 hours a week on my Peloton, but I'm not keeping track of anything as it relates to my relationships. It's tricky because you don't want to turn it into a customer relationship management software program, right? That like you got all your friends in Salesforce. So it's just trying to thread that needle. But we think it's a really interesting problem, and one that really is a byproduct opportunity of how social networks have been built with this attention extractive model, which has allowed them to develop into things that don't really serve us around this dimension of just helping me stay close with the people that really matter.
It's breadth versus depth.
Yes.
It's a centimeter deep. And I've got all these people, some I know, some I don't know, and I'm just scrolling through the feed. Versus, now, especially with COVID, right? Where you have just that proximity. Humans are social creatures. And now you literally can't have that proximity in many circumstances. And not to mention, then the vacuum that has probably been created is happily sucked up by these social networks and content platforms.
Yes.
And there's your dilemma in a nutshell, right? And so I really love that idea. How do you kind of deepen those relationships and just being that kind of mindfulness and attentive and aware. And I think, that's something just society and people need. So I think that's very exciting, and hope you keep us posted on when that product also comes out. Hi, this is Alex from Winner Take All. Thanks for joining us. Hope you enjoyed the content. Feel free to leave a comment, ask us questions, and definitely make sure to join us on our next live stream.